Hello and welcome to iCatholic. I'm Wendy Grace. Well, we're going to continue our discussions on the Synod now with Nicola Brady, who's the chair of the steering committee here in Ireland of the Irish Synodal Pathway, and she's recently back from the Continental stage of the Synod in Prague. Nicola, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Wendy. Good to talk to you again.
So tell us a little bit about your experience in Prague. What was your sense of the kind of European context of the Synod at this part of the process?
Well, as you will be aware, this continental phase was a new addition to this Synod on Synodality proposed by Pope Francis, and I thought it was a very significant and powerful addition to the process. Being in Prague itself, the location really brought home to us what this was all about. Prague has historically been this cultural crossroads, this place where we have seen encounters between different nationalities, identities, clashes between different cultures and ideologies. And we were, of course, meeting with the shadow of the war in Ukraine extending over the whole proceedings. And so it reminded us how significant relationships at this regional level are to global peace and security. And one of the things that really brought that out was how each of the speakers from Ukraine thanked their European neighbours for the work of welcoming Ukrainian refugees, because obviously refugees will flee first to the closest countries. And we saw, as we talked our way through what it meant to enlarge the space of our tent, the potential for the church to make a significant contribution to peace and security at this level. Because our faith, of course, crosses borders and connects us to people from different languages, identities, cultures. And our synodal journey is helping us to deal with that diversity and to engage positively with people who are coming from very different backgrounds to us. So all of that for me was very inspiring.
I think it's something that many of the delegates, Nicola, have touched on, is that the bringing together of people from so many different cultures and countries has shown our differences, but also the universality of faith. And I'd like to delve a little bit more into something that you touched on there, which is the ability of the faithful and of our faith to, as you said, cross borders, create connections, build relationships. How do you think that the Synod and the Synodality can be part of that wish, that goal?
Well, one of the major themes that was coming out, echoed by speaker after speaker, was the need to re-energize the mission and the evangelization work of the church. And at the heart of that is meeting people where they're at. And that means engaging with the realities that shape their daily lives. And justice and peace issues really go to the heart of that, whether it's the struggles of families dealing with the cost of living crisis, with issues like homelessness, drugs, whether it's the lack of opportunities for young people. Obviously, the church in Ukraine is, trying to live out synodality in the daily reality of war. One very strong example was that we had to adapt our programme to be able to make a response to issue a collective message about the humanitarian tragedy that was unfolding in Turkey and Syria, because these things are part of the context. And so you can't do synodality in a vacuum away from that. And at the same time, we realize that the skills that we're developing through the synodal process make us a more pastorally sensitive, more responsive, more engaged church. So it helps develop the tools that we need to engage with that reality, to meet people in the midst of these very significant challenges. And there's a very strong challenge to the church in that if we are going to live out this evangelizing mission of the church to its full potential in an increasingly secular Europe, we have to be able to clearly articulate what our Christian faith and what Catholic social teaching has to say about these very challenging realities.
And do you think that was one of the key issues, Nicola, that came across, was that we need to find the language, a way, the tools to be able to share our faith in a way that's accessible, as you say, in an increasingly secular world?
It was there definitely in many different forms. Some speakers lamented that the social justice issues were not as present as we would have wished them to be, that they weren't always front and center. And that was something that came out of our Irish experience as well. So that's one area where certainly we do have a bit of work to do. But when you come together like this, it gives you the opportunity to really focus in on those areas that need attention. There's also been a real challenge to the morale of people in the church right across different communities in Europe. For some, it was the exposure of the abuse crisis and the recognition of the woundedness that lies at the heart of the church. And that obviously has an impact on people's confidence in sharing their faith. But as we sat with that painful reality over the couple of days and explored how we might journey together, you could see it starting to build people's confidence. The fact that we were able to come together and make a strong acknowledgement that the church, yes, is wounded and it has wounded people, but also has something to offer societies that are clearly in need of healing on so many different levels. And there was something really powerful in that humility and that potential and hope for the church to be a wounded healer at the service of society. It's still quite early days in the process, but I personally felt that there was something really significant to build on there.
It sounds like, Nicola, you have taken so much from your experience in Prague. Finally, just to ask you, at this point, and of course there's many more months to go in the process, what are you taking home? What are the kind of practical things you're saying, okay, this is what I can bring to your role, but also just to your daily kind of parish life?
So much. I mean, I will be processing the learning from this for weeks and months to come. On one level, there was the really practical aspect of seeing the methodology that we've been using in Ireland done on a much larger scale and with an even more diverse group of people covering 45 different national contexts in Europe. So there were lots of learnings there, but at the heart of it, a real affirmation of this methodology of spiritual conversations that we've been using to engage people. There was also something really encouraging from the curiosity and the interest that was sparked by the process. People wanted to know what was happening, what we were doing there. And I think that's a very helpful way of engaging people who are not maybe participating in the life of the church in the sense of being part of a local parish and who we might otherwise struggle to meet. And I think if we're ready to engage positively with that curiosity, it can open up some really helpful conversations. I think our being there together in Prague and being able to affirm together that despite our differences, despite the challenges, that we really do want to see the church enlarge the space of the tent to hold as many people as possible in a protective way and to reach out and engage more and more people. I think that in itself was a very powerful witness.
Nicola, thank you so much for joining us on iCatholic today, and we will keep you in our prayers as you continue in this process and the important role that you have.
Thanks so much, Wendy.
And thank you for joining us on iCatholic today. Make sure you stay up to date with everything that's happening with the Synod on Synodality by connecting up with us on our social media channels or by checking out iCatholic.ie. Thanks so much for joining us on iCatholic today. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.